Hi, I've got some bad news and some good news. So let's start with the bad news. It's a proven fact that the human mind has an innate negativity bias. So you're not defective at all if you sometimes sit around worrying. You're operating the way nature made you. And it makes sense in the past if, we used to live in a dangerous world and it served us in some ways to have a negativity bias. After all, evolution was very focused on survival. Survival of the fittest. It was about staying alive. And if you were a bit suspicious, focused on the negatives, and looking out for potential dangers, that might have helped you survive long enough to create offspring. And that's all existence was about at that point in our evolution. So that was effective. On the other hand, being super happy and open-hearted, that feels amazing. And it's a life that feels intrinsically more worth living, if you ask me, than just trying to survive and replicate like a virus. But happiness is evolution's frosting on the cake when it comes to survival. It's nice, but it's not strictly necessary. And in a dog-eats-dog world, people are naturally focused on surviving, not on thriving. But here's the good news. You knew I'd get to the good news, right? Most of us no longer live in chronically dangerous situations where we're likely to be intentionally poisoned, shot, or beat up. Most of the time, most of us. So if you're not in a situation where you feel safe, please get help. But, most of us are at points in our lives, most people watching this type of video, we have adequate food to eat, we have, food available, we have shelter. And so now we're starting to care about not just surviving, but thriving. We get to consciously rewire our brains to be less negative because that no longer serves us. It did serve our ancestors in some ways to have this negativity bias, to live, to die another day, hopefully after raising offspring. So let's honor that. They had a function. But it no longer serves us in today's world. We are safe to let go of that fear that has been a major driver of evolution up until this point. And now we can let joy be our guide. And that's pretty new in the history of humanity. We've reached a point in human evolution where being chronically stressed, paranoid, and fearful is no longer helpful. It's not even helping us survive anymore. In fact, now that state of being is hurting us in a lot of ways, in terms of heart disease and other chronic stress-related illness. So now it makes sense to stop being natural and to become divine. It's time. It's where we're at. Because as human beings, we have this amazing opportunity to stop asking what makes us nervous and sad and worried, and instead to ask more often, well, what brings me joy? What helps me thrive? What brings me happiness? How can I contribute to greater peace and joy on this planet? How can I focus on the people, the places, and the things that lift me up and that I'm able to lift up? We now have this luxury of being able to spend time in those spaces, both mentally and physically. And that's where we start to thrive and feel purpose and meaning and be happy to be alive. And part of the key to getting that point is to spend less time with people, places, and situations who actively try to keep you at a low level of thinking, that drag you down, belittle you, or don't wish you well. Maybe the situation can be healed with kind and honest communication, but if you've tried and it can't, wave goodbye. Let it go. Letting go has become one of my favorite things to do. If a flower has lost its bloom, it's okay to move on to admiring a different flower. It's okay to plant a different flower and look forward with joy and anticipation for that flower to bloom. You don't have to sit there weeping over the expired flowers in your life's garden. They came, they blossomed, they withered and went. This is what the masters were referring to when they said to not cling, to not get so attached to anything, that we couldn't bear to let the natural cycles of life wax and wane, or to try and stop the river from its natural flow. Let it go. Trust in the indomitable nature of the human soul. Yours. Something new will always, sooner or later, take its place. Whatever you lose, something greater can take its place. So instead of weeping over the cherry blossom, whose petals blew away in the wind, stand up and go see what else is in bloom in your life's garden. What else is pushing up through the soil? And in practical terms, take that workshop that you've always wanted to. Call up that really interesting colleague who you thought would be fun to hang out with. Go spend more time in nature. But don't just sit there weeping because one blossom is gone. I promise you that blossoms are infinite. They'll be back. Yes, the individual ones will come and go, but the tree it sprang from is going to send out new ones in the spring. That's how it works. And that's how it works in our lives. But it's scary when something that we're used to is gone and now our hands are empty. But that's part of the game, is letting life be new and fresh with each new day. And not clinging, but embracing the beauty of what's going on right now. Each day, each unique season, we've reached that point where it's not just about surviving and mourning our losses anymore. We've reached a point where we now get to start thriving and celebrating the beauty of our unique, irreplaceable, unrepeatable life. I'm Beck Sato. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you soon. Love you. Mwah.